Welcome to Beyond the Huddle, the Central Arkansas FCA podcast where faith meets competition. I'm your host, Zach Rose. My co-host, Josh Ader. He's out again because he's working hard. He's doing kingdom work for our Central Arkansas East FCA team. But we're super excited to be back here with you. We've got a very special guest on today, if I do say so myself. Someone who has seen me in all stages of life and is just an incredible hero in my life. But before we dive into that conversation with him, I want to share a little bit about our Stuttgart Fields of Faith that happened this last Wednesday, October 1st, out in Stuttgart on the football field. We had about 700 students show up, which was about 200 more than we did last year, which was an incredible turnout. Out in the middle of good old Arkansas, in the rice fields, and man, it was an incredible night where we saw some students really open up and just have the opportunity to respond to the gospel. That's a lot of really just what we want to offer the opportunity for here with FCA is just the opportunity to respond to the good news, to the to be able to make the decision to follow Jesus. And we had some really good feedback from youth pastors saying, man, we saw students open up that have seemed to have a shell or mask over them for such a long time. Just to be able to create that space, to be able to worship, to be able to come together, was really, really awesome opportunity for us. And we were super, super pleased with the turnout and just the response in that time, in that moment. So thank you, if you were there, to all the volunteers, all of the sponsors, churches, youth pastors, and thank you, students, for continuing to show up. We're super excited to continue to see some growth throughout the rest of the school year. We know that growth isn't just the monetary number. It's not just one by one, because we know Jesus goes after the one, but we also know that it's heart change. And that's what we want to do. We want to make disciples right here in Central Arkansas. So that was really, really awesome. If you haven't already, you can follow us at Central Arkansas East FCA on either Facebook or Instagram. We're always posting there, keeping you updated, lots of pictures, lots of, for lack of a better term, proof of ministry. We just share a lot of cool things on our Instagram and Facebook. So if you would, follow us there. And we want to keep you connected to what's going on here in Central Arkansas. And again, October 15th, it's coming up in a couple weeks, but we'll be at Sylvan Hills High School out on the football field for Sylvan Hills Fields of Faith. Again, I'm a little biased because that's one of my schools that I'm over. But we want to see you out there. Volunteers, churches, students, we want to see you there on the football field. It's going to be a great night of ministry, an awesome opportunity to invite your friends to come together to worship, and to just share in the common ground of our faith in Jesus. So we're super excited for it. We're super excited to get all of our North Little Rock Wildcats, Sylvan Hills Bears, all those surrounding schools. We want you out there. So show up 6:15, the gates open. 7 o'clock, the event will start. That's, again, October 15th for Sylvan Hills Fields of Faith. With all that being said, man, what a beautiful day. What a beautiful opportunity to grow and to learn. And who better to learn from than your own father, right? So we've got a really awesome guest here with us today. He's my father. He's seen me since birth. He's watched me grow, and I've watched him grow in a lot of ways too. And I'm super excited to have him here. I couldn't think of anyone better to just pick their brain. And I've selfishly enjoyed having him in my life for the past 23 years. And now I get to share a little bit of that with you guys. So, Dad, thanks for being on. I'm glad you're here. Yeah.
Glad to be here.
If you see there's so much handsome on the screen right now. There's so much Rose genetics on the screen. But
Yes.
if you would, just go ahead, share your name, a little bit about yourself, maybe how you got your start in ministry, and anything else you want to tell the people.
Well, name is Paul Rose, and married for 34 years. And we have 2 children. We have an older child than Zach, his sister, Emily, and she is in Nashville, Tennessee. She works in a church there, a media department, great church, and doing wonderful. And then Zach came along 4 years later. But I was originally born in Detroit, have moved around, lived in 7 states, been in ministry in a number of places. And the place that I am right now, been here for 22 years. And this is the church that I got saved in when I was 19. Um, Called into the ministry at that time, went to Bible college, was in ministry in a large, extremely large ministry, my first, and then went to another church and then another church, and then ended up pastoring for 10 years before we came here. So, and excited to be here. I'm the care pastor. I am the executive pastor, adult ministries, and then also over men's ministries.
So
And
you
anything else that they
wear
throw.
all the hats. Yeah, you wear all the hats at the church. Just to kind of add on to that, and to really make an emphasis out of this, whether you've been in church or you haven't been in church, it's not often that you see someone who's been at the same church in a pastoral role for as long as you have been. And I've seen that example my whole life of consistency, longevity in ministry, showing up day in and day out, and that was the norm for me. But I also understand that that's not always the case for everyone. Uh, Tune in to this because you're going to want to hear. I mean, it's not necessarily groundbreaking stuff, but it's more so just being rooted biblically, and continuing to live a healthy lifestyle and have healthy family norms. But I wanted to ask you, in terms of the way that you have been in ministry for so long, what have been some of the key factors to your longevity in ministry, and what's kept you, number one, going, uh, two, thriving more so than just going, because it's not all about just being able to show up. It's about continuing to build on and grow in your relationship with Jesus, but also lead our family so well too. What do you feel like are some of the keys to that?
So, number one, it has to be a call of God. And I remember that so vividly, that God spoke to me. He said it. He just said, "I want you to work for me." And that was at your grandparents' house when that happened. And so then I asked for a confirmation, and that it would come through my mom, your Nana. And it was a couple days later, and I was over at their house and about ready to leave to go back to my house. And she just asked a question. She goes, "Have you ever thought about going into ministry?" And that was, my call to ministry and confirmation. And if you don't have that, you're not going to last. And it's not always easy. I've been here for 22 years, but the first probably 7 years of ministry was probably some of the roughest that I've ever had to go through. And but it's just staying with it. You have to have a love for people, and if you don't, uh, you're going to be miserable. And it's easy when things are going great, but then there's also going to be struggles, and you're going to have to deal with issues and all kinds of things. And I remember my mom asking me, because my grandfather was a pastor for all of his life that I remember. And my mom did evangelistic work. And, but I remember her talking to me one time, and she said, "This is what ministry is. It's long hours, little pay. You're having to deal with the issues of people. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to get called out the middle of the night." And she just listed all these different things. And she goes, "If you're willing to deal with all those, then go into the ministry. If you don't want to deal with those, then by all means, don't go into the ministry." And because a lot of people think it's glamorous and you get to stand up and preach and be in front of people and all those things, which is good and fun and exciting, yes. But that's just what we do on Sundays or Wednesday nights and those kinds of things. And we have to deal with people's issues, concerns, go to the hospital, visit them when they're suffering, and do funerals and all those different things. And so sometimes it's the struggles though are what makes us stronger is us working through those things. And this is the only place that I have worked longer or been in any one place longer than 10 years. So, and I even remember the time I was sitting at my desk. I said, God, it's 10 years I've been here. Where are we going now? And he did not answer. So we're still here.
Still kicking, still
Still
right,
kicking.
still right where you're supposed to be.
Yep.
Um, yeah, want to really hit on the family aspect of that, and more of the FCA realm in terms of sports. And I know for a lot of parents, whether they're in ministry, whether they're not, uh, being present at your kids' sports games or being present in your children's lives is it's difficult. I'm sure I could imagine over the course of time and continually showing up when life gets busy, when you're worn out, when you're tired, when life is just hitting you from all sides, when there is that struggle. Um, when Emily and I were growing up, I can remember there was quite a few consistent things in our life, but one of the consistent things that always stuck out to me was you and mom were always at our games, whether it was a home game or whether it was an away game an hour away, whether we were playing or whether we weren't playing. There was always an effort that was made to get to our games. What do you feel like the importance of showing up in those moments, regardless of if we were playing or not? How do you feel like you and mom talked about the importance of just showing up and being present in our lives? How has that looked over the years, even outside of sports? But just to hit on the importance of showing up and being present in your kids' lives.
Yeah, yeah, it is so important. Both you and Emily were always in sports, and sometimes at the same time, and having basketball games in two different cities. And so mom would go one place and I would go the other, and we would talk about it. And but it really is important. We would come back, and sometimes a lot more for your sports than for Emily's sports. There were a lot of parents who did come out and did support, but not every one of them. And we kind of sensed that those who didn't show up were the kids who, struggled a little bit. And we just always wanted to be there. And it wasn't like we weren't busy. I mean, we had church Sunday night, we had church Wednesday night. Lots of times we had some other things going on. I'm, pastoring. And so there was other meetings and other things that I needed to be at. But yeah, there was times I'd leave a meeting and go to a basketball game, half an hour away or whatever. And mom and I just worked on those things. And we said we would always be there. And I think one of them that really kind of hit me hard one time was went to your sister's game, and there was only 6 girls on the team, but I was the only parent. I was the only one from the school who showed up. And I think you might have had a game or something that mom had gone to. And so I was the only one cheering for these 6 girls. And I said, we'll make sure that we're always there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's good.
it was for us, but it was more for you guys.
Yeah.
And, that we support you, that we're going to always support you in the good and the bad and everything else. And so.
Yeah. I think that's so important for student athletes, especially, to have that presence of someone around them. That's why I think FCA is so important, and different ministries, youth pastors, like reaching the next generation is so important, because we have to step into these spaces with students, whether you're a parent, whether you're a youth pastor, whether you're just a part of the community and you're looking for some way to make a difference. It's so important that we show up for our students in any kind of capacity that we're able to. I know for me, that was a huge part of my confidence going into games was who's in the stands, who's here cheering me on. It was like my abilities were secondary to the people who showed up and were able to encourage me. I think that's a lot of how our relationship with the Lord works at times too. Pretty much in all of our life, it's our abilities are secondary to how He works and how He operates through us. And uh, so that was always just so impactful for me. That's a big part of, I think, why sports were such a big part of my life growing up, because it was something that both you and Mom engaged with, both Emily and I, in growing up. And it was something that you feel the success, you feel the struggle, you feel the wins and the losses, but you also feel the comfort of having your family there with you too. And you feel the peace of mind of knowing that, hey, regardless, win, lose, or draw, a lot of losing, but regardless of the outcome, we're here for you and we're present and we're walking this through this with you. I know that some of those most impactful moments were driving home from a game and just sitting in the back of the car,
Yeah.
probably shedding a few tears and just needing to get it off my chest, what I had to say and the frustrations that I was dealing with.
Yep. There were a few rides like that. Yes.
Yes, yes, there were. But yeah, to any parents out there, I'm proof and a testament to uh, if you want to be involved in your kids' lives, go meet them where they're at. Go join the things that they're interested in and be a part of their lives. Because I know for a lot of students, it's they'll be hesitant to come up to you, but if you're the one who approaches them and is with an open heart saying, hey, I want to be here to support you, or just showing up with a heart of, hey, I care about you and want the best for you, it'll go a long way. And I feel like your guys' example to me in that has really changed my perspective of how I want to approach ministry and fatherhood and different things like that. But I think you hit on it earlier when Nana was in ministry before you. Your perspective going into ministry was different than I'm sure most people who hadn't been around any kind of ministry before. Whether you're a pastor's kid or a missionary's kid, that perspective is so important. And I feel like that's a big part of even your longevity in ministry, is just that perspective of, well, here's the deal. Today was tough. You had to be at the hospital at 4 a.m. and you're going until 10 o'clock at night. And all of a sudden your kids are harping on you because you're watching a movie and you fell asleep in the first 20 minutes.
Never.
Yeah, that has never happened. I don't know where that came from. But that perspective of showing up day in and day out, and working hard. Yeah. Could you maybe share a moment where there was a great struggle, or there was some time of pain in your life that you feel like God really used that moment to reveal Himself through your life?
Yeah. So my first ministry position was with Jimmy Swaggart Bible, or with Jimmy Swaggart's. He was probably the biggest evangelist at that time, next to Billy Graham. And I was on staff. Then I was there when he fell, which was not easy. But when I left there, then I went to a church in Missouri. And after about 6 months, the church started to split. And it was during that time I was the assistant pastor and very close with the pastor. And some of the church people fought against the pastor and I. And so I had accusations against me. I was also daycare director and had accusations against me, and had answered all those with the pastor. Everything was good, and no struggles there. But I remember the last accusation that I had really kind of hit harder, and it was probably the worst of all of them. And I remember that night. And so after I left his office, I answered the accusation, and he was okay. And I said, listen, if this is what I'm being accused of, I'll be glad to face my accuser. And there was never any person that was brought to, accuse me of anything. And it was just during this church split, and they were making things up, and they were trying to hurt us, anonymous mail, anonymous phone calls, and all these different things. And but it was that night that I went for a walk. And I told God, I said, that's it. I'm out. I said, I can find a job tomorrow. I can, I'm out of here. And I'm just tired of what these people have done. And we'd been through it for about a year and everything. But God spoke to me and he said, no, I have you right where I want you. And it was hard. For the next 30 days, I had, dry heaves every morning before I walked into that church building. And it was the worst, thing I think that I've ever had in ministry happen. Been accused, had my life threatened while I was there. Um, and just, so many things. And, but it was that when God spoke to me, it didn't it didn't take away all the hurt, all the accusations. It didn't take away any of those things. But I just knew that God was there and ended up staying there for about another month or two and then took another position in another place. But it's because of that, I tell people there's only one person who's going to get me out of ministry, and that's me. I've had accusations, I've had my name dragged through the mud and all kinds of things. The same thing with the senior pastor at that time, and just all kinds of hurt there. And so I tell people, you can say whatever you want about me, you can do whatever you want. I know how I am with God in my relationship with God, and that's going to keep me strong. So I tell people you can bring it on, but only God or myself are going to get me out of ministry.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely. A lot of times, and especially on this podcast, we've talked a lot about pain and how that's kind of the common denominator of everyone's story. We all experience pain. We all experience turmoil and things that are upsetting in our lives. And those are the moments that I've sensed in the 23 years of life that I've had. And I know in the few more years of experience that you've had of um, those are almost the times where you draw so close to the Lord that you can almost hear just the whisper of him, because that's all you got when you're on your knees and when you're dry heaving and thinking, Lord, where do I go from here? Like, how do I move and operate and get my feet
yeah,
to go today?
yeah.
It's
But it's
it's
it's during those times that God is working on us if we will allow ourselves to learn what God has for us.
Yeah.
And my first ministry position wasn't it was great, but then after a year, I went through 6 months of going to work every day, not sure if I was going to have a job. Second ministry position, now 6 months in, and now we go into a church split and all those different things. And it was your Nana who said it, which I remembered so many times. If you don't learn what you're going through, you're going to have to go through it again.
Mm.
And I would always say, okay, let's learn what I'm supposed to learn now so I don't have to go through this again,
Yeah.
because you have to learn that to go on to what's next. I tell people you have to learn everything in third grade and graduate before you can move on to fourth grade. And third grade builds or it comes when you get to fourth grade. It's what you've learned in third grade that you apply in fourth grade, that you apply in fifth grade, and you go on. And it's always a learning process. And we should never put those things up on a shelf and just that's our story.
Mm.
Now some of that is, all right to share, and some of it's not. But some of those hurts and some of those feelings and what they did and the accusations and everything, people say, really, you had shared that you were accused of things? That's part of my story, and it helps other people. And so we should always share our story, and along with that comes the pain.
Yeah. Yeah. Third
So,
grade, the longest 5 years of your life. Huh?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. I that's a part of what we've been doing at Fields of Faith this year. Again, if you haven't been able to get out there, there's still one more chance out at Sylvan Hills. There's going to be a couple students who share their testimonies, and that's been to me some of the most powerful time of the evening. Has been seeing these students in front of hundreds, if not thousands, of their peers going up on a stage and sharing the things that they've struggled with, but how God has interceded and moved through their lives. There's so much power in your testimony, and even just your experiences, anyone's experiences as they walk through ministry, as they walk through life. The Lord wants to use each and every single one of us. And I think
Yeah.
that's such a beautiful promise.
All of our stories should be able to help somebody,
Yeah.
and just to understand that everybody goes through hurts, goes through pain and suffering. And in that, the answer is always God. And how did I get out of it? God spoke to me and said, I have you right where I want you.
Yeah.
And I could have walked away. I really could have. But I'm like, okay, this is where God wants me. So I guess I need to stay here.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could, for the next generation of youth coming through our churches and our schools, uh, would you just share some advice that you would maybe give to the next generation about how to live a fruitful life with Jesus, and how to continue to build on their faith every single day?
Yeah. It all comes down really to one word, and it's a word that every Christian should have and live by, and that's discipline. Discipline to read your Bible, discipline to pray, discipline to go after God. And that, with the sports that you played, I mean, you had to go out, you had to do the drills, you have to practice, you have to, and there was times when it wasn't fun. There was times when it was a drudgery, to go out there, and you're like, oh, and we would encourage you, no, you got to stick with this. And you just have to walk with God. And one of the great things is just learn the voice of God. That's one of the things that that I think God spoke to me a couple of years ago, that we need to really teach people, is to learn the voice of God, because then if you learn that, then you know what God wants, and you know where God is leading. And that can come through the Bible. Yes, it can come through, what you feel. I feel God speaking to me and everything. But having discipline, knowing the voice of God, and just enjoy this walk with God. There's going to be troubles and strife and all those things, but there's also great blessings that come when you walk with God. And sometimes we don't see the little miracles. And I know, there's times when God has blessed our family unexpectedly, and it happens. But it comes when we, stand with God. We walk with Him every single day, and just stay away from the things of the world. One of the things that I tell people going to college, is that what you learn in that classroom, you'll probably forget. The algebra, the psychology, all that kind of stuff. But the other part of it, yep, when you're out there and you're making decisions about dinner and staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning and who you're hanging out with, that's called life. And that's going to determine what the outcome of the rest of your life is going to be, by your decisions. So make wise decisions, and when you do, it makes life a lot easier. So, but and I feel for the youth of today. I thought it was hard when I was growing up, but no, I think you guys have it so much harder. With phones, with media, with all the things that are bombarding you guys. You have so much noise that's coming in. And when I was growing up, we didn't have that. So, and you just have to learn how to shut all that out and spend time with God. And again, learn His voice, and you'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that's something, even like that's a very real thing for me in my life every day is shutting off the noise of the world, shutting off, even if it is something that's even ministry related. Sometimes it's like, well, hold on, I got to center myself real quick and be grounded and rooted in uh, what God has for me today so that I can effectively do the work that He's called me to today.
Mhm.
Because sometimes it's easy to make ourselves busy and to try and fill our schedule with things that are, yes, good and ministry work, but is that what God has for us today? Is that what He's trying to show and reveal to us in and through our lives? Know that even early on in ministry for me has been something that has been a challenge at times. I read a book a while back. I always like saying that I read a book one time. I've read like 5 books in my life, but I like to refer to them every once in a while to make myself sound smart. But it's called Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and it said if the devil can't bring you down and tempt you and make you fail in that way, he'll just make you busy. And a lot of times that's it right there is
Correct.
keeping us busy, keeping our minds engaged on something other than the Lord, and keeping our ears engaged on something other than the voice of God and what we hear. And
Yeah, and it
that,
could be though that you're doing things even in ministry, but that's not what God wants you to do. And that's a struggle sometimes. Oh, I'm busy here. I'm going there. I'm going to the hospital and stuff like that. But what is it that God wants you to do? And we can get distracted with the things that we enjoy that are fun. And in being in ministries, there's sometimes, I'd rather do the fun things, but you still got to do the hard things.
yeah,
So,
yeah, it's a daily decision.
oh, yes.
Um, in terms of people that you have looked up to in your life and people who have really walked that and lived that out of walking in discipline, just being an encouragement to you, who is your biggest hero and why? Whether that was a parent, coach, teacher, professor, pastor, who is that person in your life, and why was that so important to you?
It would have to be my dad, your papa. Um, he didn't have the best upbringing. It was not easy for him. He was raised in a very poor home, um, and in a small town. And his dad died when he was really young. His mom remarried, and um, he didn't have the greatest relationship with his stepdad, and ended up going and living with his grandparents. And like I said, he was just dirt poor, but he didn't have a good example of a father in his life. Probably his grandfather was the best example of a father. And but he was one of the best men that I've ever known, and who was always there. And that's where we learned it. That's where I learned it. My dad was always at all of our games. He was our coach at times. He was always pushing us, giving us responsibility, before we thought we were ready for responsibility. And he was just a great man. He was quieter in his relationship with God earlier, but as he walked with God, he became very strong. And he loved God, and he showed that, and he was an example of that, of Christ likeness. And he was just always there, and we could always count on him. And he always put his family first before he put himself.
Mm,
And that's a great example of Christ likeness. That Jesus Christ came for others. It wasn't for himself, but he came for others. And so yeah, he's probably my biggest hero,
mm,
and taught me more than anybody else, um, about life, about cars, about girls. I mean, whatever it was. He was a man of few words, But when he spoke, you listened to what he said.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have been hearing this recently and just through my whole life, but I feel like this has been something that um, I've been reminded of a lot recently. It's that love is sacrifice. True love, unconditional love is sacrificial. And I think that's a lot of times the people that make the most impact on our life are the people that really sacrificed and that really gave so much to us, whether we deserved it or not.
Correct.
That's the essence of our relationship with Jesus is we didn't deserve the grace that we were given, but we were still given it anyways. It was a sacrificial gift, and that's our call to live like that too. And I know that you've passed that down to us, and you've been that hero for me in the same sense of showing up and being present, and helping me to be where I am today. Now, does that make any of us perfect? Absolutely
No.
not. Not in the slightest. But it does continue to push us forward so that we can become uh, more like Christ in His image, in His likeness as we go. So, yeah, it's always an encouragement to have people in your corner who are there not to just cheer you on as a fan, but to sacrifice and give what they have to be able to encourage you. To kind of finish up, we got a little over 10 minutes left or so. Want to kind of do a little bit of a fun segment. I didn't give you this, so we're winging it here. Uh, but you've traveled quite a few different places, had the opportunity to go on quite a few different missions trips, go around the world some. What's been your favorite place to visit, whether on a missions trip, on vacation, and why? Whether it was food, culture, what was just like that unique experience that you would go back and do it again?
Oh, I, that's hard. And so I will say it this way. My last trip, whatever my last trip is my favorite one. And so the last one was to Spain, and I really enjoyed that. The food was okay. Um, Now in Scotland, I really loved the food, which was the trip before that. And I've enjoyed the mission trips. And I tell people every Christian needs to go on a mission trip and just to experience another culture, to see how the rest of the world lives and everything. And I've been on a number of those trips. But I guess my favorite trip would be whenever I'm with you guys, with family, taking vacation. And I always love planning those every year and, determining, okay, this is where we're going. And for me, it really doesn't matter where we're going, though it's nice to see place, whether it's, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Colorado, or Nashville, where we went this past year. Just being with you guys and relaxing and having fun. And just because we don't get to see you guys as much as we would like. And so it doesn't matter where we are, whether we're at home or on vacation. But my favorite place would just be with family.
Mm, yeah, yeah. I'm sure a lot of people that really would love to travel around and experience a lot of things around the world. I know Nana, my grandma, your mom. She's always loved Africa, and that's been one of the most impactful places for her. Even now, she still talks about she wishes she could get back to Africa one more time.
Yep, at 92 years old.
Yeah,
She
absolutely.
tells me all the time also, because I went with her a couple of times.
But it's almost that heart connection and that bond with people of man, if I could just go back one more time, if I could just be there, be present, feet on the ground, be able to minister and love on those people. That's something that is missions trips have always been something where I've never been on a mission trip outside the country, and I will sometime,
Yes, you will.
hopefully in the near future. But every time any person who goes on a mission trip, they come back, their eyes are wide and they're thinking, well, man, what a different perspective I have of love and care, whether it was the people that were there in whatever country it is. It's, man, how can we love on these people more? How can we care for them more? How can we minister to them deeper? So,
Yeah,
yeah,
when we went to Scotland, it's well to do where we were, Edinburgh. But when we were in South Africa, you know, these people didn't have anything. In fact, no running water, no electricity. And to know how blessed we are, that we have those things and we don't even think about them. We come in, we have air conditioning today, and where they don't, and they live in shacks. So we're so blessed. But yeah, this is an amazing world that God has made, and we need to experience a little bit of it.
yeah, definitely. You talked about family and being together. For me, as I'm approaching marriage, and that, man, just I feel like relationship that a lot of people covet's maybe not the right word, but desire in their life, especially young people. Um, what would be your best advice to, whether they're students in high school, college age, they're looking to pursue someone in marriage, they're looking to pursue that person, or maybe they found that person and are about ready to get married? What would be your advice to them for healthy relationships and dating and marriage and beyond?
Yeah, I guess for dating, just enjoy it, and be friends. And even if it doesn't work out, be friends. That was my first experience.
That doesn't exist for kids nowadays.
But
We're
it
broken
needs
for each
to.
other. Yeah, yeah.
And it really doesn't. But it was the experience that I had, which was a great experience with the first girl that I dated. We stayed friends, and that helped me with all the relationships, the few that I had after that until I met your mom. That, yeah, just walk through some things, and you learn. You might not marry the first person that you date, but learn what you like in the opposite sex, and um, figure out what you want in that relationship also. And then as they get closer to like where you guys are engaged and getting married, this is the second biggest decision that you'll ever make in your life. Your first one is whether you accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And second one is who you're going to marry, because those are lifetime decisions. And you're going to be with Rachel for the rest of your life. And so that's a big decision that you have to make. And make sure you know what love is. It's one of the things that I sense and I see and I know when I'm doing counseling. I'll ask people, so what is love? And there's a lot of people who really struggle to define what love is. A lot of it has to be with how they were raised, and they've never been shown love. And they have to work through that, and they have to figure it out. But just understanding God is love, and he wants us to love others just as much as he loves us. When we do, then it becomes easier. And then for the young people that are married, there's going to be some struggles. You got two different people who were raised in two different homes, living two different ways, and they're coming together and trying to be as one. And sometimes there's friction. And how I see it, how she sees it. And that's still true with your mom and I, that, there's times we still don't see things eye to eye, and we just have to work through it. But understand that, instead of getting upset, talk it out, work it out. And of course, with all those things, go to God, ask him if this is the right person, and, This is the one you're supposed to be with the rest of your life, and really spend some time. And when you hear that voice and you know that it's God, then you'll know you'll be there till the end.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. Um, I mean, the communication aspect of that is something that we've seen a ton just early on, even as wedding planning and getting ready for what's next. That's so important. And that's what I try and tell the students that we meet with in our huddles all the time. It's like, whether it's a dating relationship, whether it's your teammate, you got to communicate. You have to
yeah,
make clear expectations of what you expect, what the team expects, what your spouse expects, what your fiance expects, whatever it may be. Make a clear expectation. And when things don't go as they're supposed to, because they're not always going to go the way you expect them to,
correct.
continue to communicate through those things too. That's, oh man, if when I was growing up, I feel like I had this perspective as a kid of, oh man, well once you fix things, they'll just be good the rest of the time. Like I mean, never saw you and mom like fight or argue, like other than like just a random like Tuesday night we're talking about something stupid, but uh, it's like that perspective of building relationships and hurt and pain, but also love and everything that it can be, really comes when you just experience it for yourself. So,
Right. Yeah.
um, to finish us off here with just a few minutes left, for all of the sports lovers out there, and for you who's every once in a while you got some random sport on, and I'm like, what's going on? What are we watching here? What do you think is the most difficult sport to play, and why?
Mm, wow. That is that's a tough question. Um, Man, because they're all different and they're all tough in their own way. But I'm gonna I'm I'm gonna go probably a way that you don't expect. I'm gonna say bicycle racing.
Oh my gosh.
You see the Tour de France was just on, a few weeks ago and stuff like that. And here's these guys that go out and they pedal, 130, 150 miles in a day, at speeds that are crazy. And they get up the next day and they do it again. And, you know and it's just the mental part of that. I was watching some of that, and I was watching some things about the Tour de France, and it was amazing how the mental part. And you wouldn't think, you just get on a bike and you pedal, you pedal, you pedal.
Yeah.
No, if you've had a crash, you're going around that corner, you've had a crash on a corner, that affects you, you know.
Yeah.
So really, in any sport, it can be physical, it can be not so physical, but mental is probably some of the toughest part of it. And when you get your mental right, lots of times it helps you to figure everything else out and to work on that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I would say with any sport, it doesn't matter. And just like with you, there were times we would tell you, shoot the ball. And you had it in your mind. I got to pass. I can't make this, whatever it was. Am I correct?
You're correct. You got me
Yes.
there.
And it was just, so like I said, it doesn't matter what the sport is. I think the toughest part of it is the mental. And if you're in that good mental place, and you've worked on things, you just can't have a good mental. Oh, I can do this. I can shoot every basketball that I shoot is going to go in. No, you got to put in the hours. You got to practice. And you got to do all those different things. But you also got to know that, hey, I might sit on the bench, but I still got to go out there and still got to practice. Still got to shoot the ball, and I've got to work on my whole game. So
Yeah. Yeah. I know we've watched.
that was a tough question. I had to really think about that, and
Well, we've seeing, I mean, I know you watch it more than any of us, but uh, bicyclist and the Tour de France, especially. But how close they are. Number one, their
Yes.
wheels are just this tiny, and
Right.
they're about as far away from each other as their wheels are
Yeah.
thick, and uh, going down these hills and going at high speeds, and
Correct.
it's a wonder there's and I know there are some accidents that happen, but just the precision and the skill that it takes. That wasn't what I was expecting you to say at all. I was thinking you were going to say golf or something like that, but
No, golf is
there
easy.
are
You hit the ball, but again, it's a lot of mental, you know.
uh,
Uh,
yeah,
Football's easy. You're doing the same thing over and over again, but it's the mental.
yeah,
So work on, and that's the thing is, I think a lot of people do is they work on the physical, but you got to work on the mental.
yeah,
And you got to say, okay, not that you have a big ego. That's not the point, but understand the game. And that's what I think that we've tried to help, you and your sister at times is, to understand the game. And when you lost, okay, why was there a loss? We can't blame the refs. If you guys weren't shooting the ball or you were missing or whatever, they were a stronger team or whatever happens to be, all those different things. So, but you can get it into your head and there were times when we really saw that you guys lost
mhm,
because of mentally what was happening on the court. So,
yeah, definitely. Well, Dad, thanks for joining us on Beyond the Huddle, and for sharing a little bit about your story and some of your wisdom and the insight. I know that I'm not the only person that's benefited from you and your ministry and the way that you live your life. So, thanks for being present in my life and so many other people, and thanks for joining us on the show today. And thank you for listening. Please
yep.
feel free to share this with a friend, share it with your uncle, with your cousin, with your next door neighbor. We want to continue to share the stories of coaches and athletes in our area, and different leaders and pastors, and those who have some wisdom and insight. So thank you again for joining us for Beyond the Huddle, the Central Arkansas FCA podcast where faith meets competition. Sylvan Hills Fields of Faith, October 15th. Gates open at 6:15. It'll start at 7. We want to see you there. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you next week.